Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sports Corner at 124. I'm Dwayne Hulett. This is Kenny Suter, and we are a little later than planned, but we have some awesome highlights from men's and women's basketball at WIU. We have both WIU coaches scheduled to be on, Coach Jeeter and Coach Gravina, and all kinds of basketball to talk about. No football. Football is done.
Sadly.
We finished with the I-8FA state championship game a week and a half ago, and it's been all basketball ever since. Boys basketball, girls basketball, all the Thanksgiving tournaments are over, and we're into quote-unquote regular season prior to conference season. And it's always kind of an exciting time of year because they've kind of felled out their teams right. Mm-hmm. Now they get to kind of get into a rhythm, and then boom, come the Christmas tournaments.
And exactly what we've seen so far with these tournaments. I mean, you're looking at, especially with the Saturday days, the final days of those tournaments that we've had, boys and girls, sitting there looking at 6 games in a row of a couple of teams, getting to see how they match up against somewhat of a faster team with somewhat of a slower team, how they're going to deal with a team that's going to press 24/7. Getting all that knowledge and all how they're going to work it out early out of the season so that when you get into conference play, nobody's, throwing an ace out of their sleeve at a team. They know exactly how they're going to play.
Yeah, we'll see if that shakes out. If you watch the first game of the season for the Macomb High Bombers against West Hancock and then watch the rest of the Spartan Tip-Off Classic, not the same team. So you see how things, and you play those games, but then when you get into the second half of the season, you're like, those games really don't matter. Yeah, if you want to go undefeated, if you think you're really, really good and you want to prove something, maybe they mean something to you. But in the whole scheme of things, you're learning, you're getting better, and you're trying to get ready for conference and then in turn get ready for the postseason. So we'll see if that shakes out well. It has worked to this point for the Bombers. The Bombers have looked much better every game they've played. Last night they were up. They held Geneseo to 9 points going into the final quarter. They gave up 20 finally, or 21, but they played everybody on their bench and could have probably held them down to 12, 10, something like that. So, it's just one of those deals where you learn things, you see what your team's good at, you get better, and you keep moving forward. So we've got J.D. Gravina, Rob Jeeter coming up tonight as our guests, and we've got tons of highlights. Kenny's been working his tail off all afternoon and into the evening getting highlights for you.
Ever since 2, I got out of class, rushed over, downloaded everything from 2:30 all the way to 7 o'clock is when I finally finished them all done.
You did get a little food in there, though,
Just
right?
a little bit, yeah.
Well, that's what matters.
And you called me and talked to me while I was eating in the middle, so it's
Perfect.
not like I got a break.
Perfect timing. Well, I had the meeting, and then I had another meeting, and then I had to go, and I called you on the way to WIU. So first time I've been to WIU in a long time, especially as a media member. So that was kind of fun to be back, kind of reliving some old memories from days gone by. And I'm old. You don't have those kind of memories quite like I do, but you do have some of them. You've done some games at WIU.
Yep. Through the normal broadcasting last year, I was mostly the audio guy for the ESPN Plus streams. So that was fun while everybody else is running around trying to scream into microphones and working on cameras and hoping everything's perfect. I'm sitting there with sliders like, oh, here comes a basket. I'll turn the basket mic up. Dung. All right, he missed. Let's turn it back down. That's all it did the entire game was look up and go up and down.
So you're telling me you're the reason we hear the bricks?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that was what?
I'm a very integral part of the team.
Integral
okay?
part. Yeah, I got you. I hear you. All right, we're going to take our first break. We'll be back with Coach J.D. Gravina and talk about WIU women's basketball in just a few minutes here on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH.
That's
not what we wanted. Where are the commercials at?
all the way down.
Holy moly.
At Western Illinois University, Leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there's limitless potential, with campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a Leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
Welcome back to Sports Corner at 124. Dwayne Hulett, Coach, WIU women's basketball coach, J.D. Gravina, with us. And, Coach, tough loss for you guys tonight. Decent crowd, though. There seemed like there was some energy for you guys. The other team shot the lights out, and you guys shot so-so.
Yeah, and Dwayne, I appreciate you having me on. And it's always tough to come up after a loss, but I do appreciate being here. And we did. We always have good support at Western Hall, and I love the community around here. And I think they value what our players bring to the court, even in kind of a tough game. And I think you look at basically the combination of two things, and one is Tarleton's a really good ball club, and they have probably the quickest point guard maybe I've ever seen, who luckily was in some foul trouble the first half, but a couple players that can just really score it, and they came out and shot 70% from three in the second quarter, and we got a lot of open looks in the first half, and I would have loved to see that flip-flop where we shoot it well and they kind of struggle and see how that game goes. But, I think our kids really, they really fought hard. I thought I was proud of them second half. That's a tough situation to be in, and we defended a little bit better and rebounded okay. And so I still saw some positives, but just kind of feels like we're in a little bit of a grind here where nothing quite is going our way, and we've got to work through it.
Well, you've been around basketball a long time. I haven't coached basketball, but I've covered it for years. And it seems like when things aren't going your way, the little things that normally don't matter just get magnified, right, Absolutely. A little bit. And you guys you made 26 free throws tonight, so you did things well. You just couldn't do enough well. And I think usually if you score 69 points, you're going to be happy with that, right?
Yeah, I thought offensively, for how poorly we shot the ball with a lot of good shots, I thought especially second half we did some better things. We got to the rim a little bit. I thought we moved the ball and moved without the ball better than we have, which was a big point of emphasis. But you're right, those little things. We had a lot of turnovers. Part of that was our pressure defense, but part of that is I just thought we were a little willy-nilly with the basketball, and we just have to be really solid in games like that. And then you see some of those little things. Early we made that little run to cut back into it, and then we hit a three, and they call a moving screen, which is one of those plays that they could call that about any time on that pick and roll. And so a lot of little things like that, I think, just kind of we've got to do a better job of really locking down and being solid when things aren't going our way.
Yeah, it seemed like in the second half, I don't know what you talked about at halftime, obviously, but it seemed like the ladies were more concerted efforts to go to the basket and draw some contact. And you guys spent a lot of time at the free throw line, in both halves, really.
Yeah, and I think part of that was just trying to have a little bit of toughness. If they're going to get up in pressure, you've got to be able to attack them and get to the basket and make them guard without fouling. And we did a good job of that. And I think part of it was playing with a little bit of nothing to lose. I thought we played tight in the first half, especially when they started hitting some shots. And it's hard for us to play tight because we are a team that has to kind of let it fly a little bit. And so, and we're still trying to kind of find our rotation. We're playing a lot of kids because it's like every kid on our team deserves to play, and it's both sides of it. We don't quite have those kids stepping up that are our for sure go-to players, although we're starting to get closer to that. But all of the kids on our bench, I think, have proven that they deserve a chance. And so I think we're running our rotation a little thin. I just don't know what the answer for that is.
Well, we just talked in the open that this is, you're not to conference yet. You want to win these games, obviously, but you're not to conference yet. So your goal is to get better every game, right, and get better so you're playing as good as you can for conference and then continue that on. Do you feel like you're making strides in that direction?
I do. I think sometimes it's hard to see when you're not really in it, knowing what we're trying to work on. I think the Northern Illinois game was a setback, but other than that, since Eastern Illinois, I feel like we've kind of been building a little bit. And again, when we go back and look at film and stat, I would venture to say we've got more good shots today than we got in any other game. But we shot it really poorly. And a little bit of that is their defensive aggressiveness. They rushed you a little bit. So even when you did get an open shot, you weren't as relaxed as we sometimes are. But I think we took some strides in that. I thought we took some strides in rebounding against a good rebounding team. So we see those little victories. But you're right, and that's exactly what I told the players after the game real quickly is that, last year we had a great non-conference run. I think we were 9-2, beat Northern Illinois, beat Southern Illinois, who won the Valley, beat Butler. And this year we're kind of struggling. And last year we struggled a little bit in conference. And so I'm hoping that this year we're going to be a little more battle tested because we have had some challenges.
Well, and that's kind of what that whole idea is, right, is to, when I say you're trying to build, you want to play well. And it's nice to be 9-2. It's kind of like winning an early season tournament is nice, right? but it really doesn't matter as long as you're getting better. And if you can take these losses and learn from them for the conference, that's where it really starts to pay off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And our conference is going to be really wide open this year. I mean, I think we've got, obviously, South Dakota State is as good as they've ever been, and South Dakota is always going to be good. North Dakota State is playing really well this year. But I think if we can kind of get going, start shooting it well, start building some confidence, we can really compete in the league. And I like you said, at the end of the day, that's the goal. And I think we can still try to get some momentum here. A lot of teams have played their 2 non-D1 games and built some confidence, and maybe that was a mistake on our part. If we had already played our 2 non-D1 games and we're sitting at 3-5, and maybe have some confidence, some shooting confidence from some of those games, maybe it helps us. But on the flip side, maybe now that can help us build that confidence into conference season.
So as you say, you played 10 players a lot tonight, and you played everybody. You ended up playing everybody on the bench, and you really weren't ever – at the end of the third quarter, you'd cut a 20-point lead down to 12. You were making strides and coming back. You played everybody. How hard is it as a coach? You've been doing it a while. How hard is it as a coach to say, to find that player to step up? You said you need to do that. Is there any way to promote that or pressure that to happen?
Yeah, it's one of the toughest things I've ever dealt with as a coach this year, because in the past we were talking about as our coaching staff, we'd have a kid in foul trouble or a kid that's tired, and we'd kind of look at our bench and think, like, who do we really trust to put in? And now it's almost the opposite. I look down at the bench and I think, like, man, I need to get Addie Brownfield in. I need to get Allie Meadows in. I need to get Kennedy Flanagan some minutes. Z's playing well. Jada's playing well. And so it's almost the opposite problem that I've normally had. And you would think it'd be a good problem to have, but I don't know what the answer is. I just don't see it being possible to cut our rotation down to 7 or 8 kids, because who are you going to tell that they don't get to play? Mallory McDermott, who's leading us in field goal percentage. Anna Dietz, probably had the best game of everyone at Chicago State. Zaria Chevry's been playing better and better every game. So, there's just no one that we can right now say can't play. And again, I hope that in conference season that starts to pay off as teams wear down a little bit.
Well, and the other thing is it's not always the coach's responsibility. The players need to make those decisions for you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And right now, they're so level playing field, it's hard to do that. But you're probably looking as a coach saying, hey, I need 2 or 3 players that are going to step up, right, and make the choice to be the leader and be the person I can't take off the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're getting close to that. Our veterans, I know Elizabeth, she shot it okay tonight, struggled a little bit with her ball handling, and I thought Jada Thorpe took a really good step, even coming off the bench tonight. Getting better shots and being pretty aggressive but still moving the ball. So that was encouraging. And I think Alyssa Dens has kind of gotten to that role where she knows, like, we're better when she's on the floor. So she's going to get her minutes. And like I said, Zaria Chevry, I think, is starting to prove herself where she can kind of be that consistent starter. I think the problem is it's like after that we've got a bunch of really good players, again, right, which is great. And, you start to think about, well, we've got to get our freshmen some experience because they're really the future of the program. And there's other kids who have been here for a while that I think also deserve some minutes because they've put in the time. So it's difficult, I'll be honest.
I thought your post play was decent at times tonight, but they struggled finishing at the rim. You get them in position, they get themselves in position. That's got to be frustrating for you and them to see them get there but then not be able to finish.
Yeah, and I think we're going against a little bit bigger team, but we're going to be giving up some size. We're going to be giving up a couple inches, almost every game. So I think a lot of that's confidence, and you look at Alyssa, and I've been super happy with the way she's playing. She's one of the best passers I've ever coached, does a lot of really good things. She's rebounding pretty well, but she's just continuing to build her confidence with her post moves. Kennedy Flanagan is just starting to kind of gain some confidence, especially in practice around the basket. And some of our guards can post up. Zaria can post up. Addie Brownfield can score around the basket. So hopefully, you've got to get those easy baskets. And usually we get them in transition. We get them at the free throw line, which we did tonight, so that's good. We usually get them in transition with open threes. And, again, we got a ton of open ones but didn't knock them down. So you've got to be able to get the ball inside and get a couple easy baskets.
Well, you mentioned your guards being able to post up. When you have undersized forwards or undersized deep big players, taking the other team's big player out and being able to have a guard that can post up might be something that you guys can use as you get into into the conference season too, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And when I looked at our team before the season, I really thought, okay, we might have trouble matching up with some teams, but they're going to have a terrible time matching up with us. The hard thing is that it's all centered around shooting the ball well. And this is what I think should be probably our best shooting team, maybe I've ever had, and we haven't shot it well. And again, hopefully that will start to flip, and we'll, once you see some go in, that really helps. But we have got to be a team where the defense feels like, man, we've got to chase them out everywhere and get out on their 3-point shot. And if they feel like they can get an open one, they probably won't knock it down, then it doesn't open our drives to the basket. It doesn't open up any of our post play.
I thought defensively tonight they shot really well, but they moved the ball really well against you guys, and you guys kind of struggled. It seemed like on occasion to get in transition and move away from the basketball, and that allowed them to get some open shots. What did you think defensively about your guys' game tonight?
Well, I thought especially early, our matchup zone was just not effective. They did a great job picking it apart. And again, we were looking at them. I mean, they attacked the basket really well. They were shooting like 32% from three, coming into the game. So we thought we kind of try to have more of a no paint touch mentality. And I think they came out and hit their first 3 or 4, and that just set the tone. And so that matchup zone, we weren't quite aggressive enough. We weren't quite getting to the corners, which is tough to guard in our zone, but we really have to have some urgency getting there, and we didn't. And so then kind of when it rained, it poured with that. And then I think when we consistently started playing man-to-man defense, we did play a little better defensively, especially in the second half. We fouled a lot, especially when they were going to the basket. Gave them quite a few free throws as well. There's a lot of free throw shot overall tonight. But I think that we can be a better man-to-man defensive team than we've been the last couple of years. I hope our zone, at times it's been effective. Eastern Illinois, it gave us a chance to win that game, probably won us the game at Chicago State. But you can't really count on it, because if a team starts picking apart a zone, you're a little bit helpless. Whereas I feel like if you're playing man-to-man, you can really have that mentality to lock down.
One of the things I heard you say right at the beginning of that was confidence. They got some confidence hitting a three. You kind of feel like maybe that's where you're at right now, is you just need a couple things to go your way?
Yeah, I think so. And, again, part of it can be schedule. I mean, a couple of these teams, Tarleton, we played last year and beat them at their place, and they were not near as good as they are this year. They got a lot of new players that are really good, and we went even with the scheduling. I mean, Eastern Illinois is having a really good year so far. Southern Indiana is showing a lot of promise. Northern Illinois is going to be really good this year. So it's kind of one of those unlucky years where you schedule a team that you feel like are your peers, but then you kind of catch them on up years, and we don't have as experienced of a team. I mean, losing our 2 most experienced players to the transfer portal, it's showing. I mean, there's just no way around it. Losing Danny and Evan has had an effect, and we've got to quickly gain some experience because really Elizabeth and Jeeter and maybe Anna Dietz are really the only 3 kids that have experience on our team.
Speaking of the transfer portal, I don't know that people really expect Western Illinois University to lose players to the transfer portal. How do you see that working for WIU right now? Obviously, you lost a couple players this year, but as a whole, do you think it's good for the schools the size of WIU or not?
I initially when it came out, I thought it'd be a positive because we've always had some luck with transfers. But I think that I did not expect in women's basketball there to be as many transfers up, where now you have to worry if a kid has a good freshman, sophomore year, they may transfer, to a quote-unquote better program. The other thing I'm seeing a lot with the transfer portal is it seems to be really location-based. The schools in nice areas, on the coast in Florida, in Arizona, or in California, are really able to get some kids.
What are you trying to say?
I know. Can you believe it? And we love Macomb,
right.
But, for some college kids that may have 10 different options, that can be the difference. If one of them is on the beach in Florida, that's a big deal to a college kid. So I'm not super excited about the transfer portal but like everything else, you got to think outside the box and start finding a way to use it to our advantage. And the COVID year, that's what people don't realize. It's probably as much the COVID year an issue as the transfer portal. Both Danny and Evan, they fulfilled their obligation here. They had the extra COVID year and decided to go use that and have another experience. They were both done academically, and I think they're both having a good experience. So I hope that it doesn't come to a point where a kid comes and has a good sophomore year and tries to bounce to a Missouri Valley school or to a BCS school. And I hope that, on the flip side, we should be able to get some kids. We were close on some kids, a transfer from Wisconsin. a couple other transfers that we were in the top 3 on, and so I hope that at some point, we get a couple of those players that can be game-changing for us.
Now, that's something that football in years past, before you came here, when Randy Ball was here, Aaron Stecker and guys like that, Eddie Hartwell, both Wisconsin transfers, right? They came down to play at Western. That's never been a thing for basketball. I mean, even the transfer portal makes it easy, but why is that such a thing for football? Hasn't been in years past before the transfer portal a thing for basketball so much?
Well, in years past for basketball, you had to sit out a year when you transfer. That made a big difference. Whereas in football, if you transferred down, you didn't have to. So you saw a lot more of those transfers, quote unquote, down from FBS to FCS. And so now that's not the case with basketball either. So I do think you'll probably see a lot of that. The hard thing for us is, we've had good luck with transfers on the women's side. But back in the day, I sound like an old man now, back in the day. But, back in the day, if a kid was transferring, the AU called, 2 coaches that he trusts and said, hey, this kid's transferred, would be interested. Well, now that kid puts their name in, and I'm not kidding you, they're getting 30 calls. I mean, Danny Nichols was getting 30 calls of, really good programs that were interested in her. Evan Czar is the same thing. And so there's a little bit more competition with the transfers, and it's not just about who they can trust anymore. It's kind of that second round of facilities and location and all those things.
How you mentioned COVID, and high school. We do a lot of high school stuff. So high school was like, well, they lost a year.
Right.
Well, the thing that I think that I forget sometimes is college kids lost a year, but they get the year back.
That's right.
How difficult has that been for you as a coach? Because you got your scholarships and you have your flow of things of how they're supposed to work, and then they get an extra year, and you were looking at this year as being what you needed, and then they're still here. And how's that worked for you?
It's been a mess. I mean, it's just across the board with talking to other coaches. It's hard to plan. It's hard to figure out. Everything's been really volatile, I think. I think it's hurt a lot of the incoming players too, because you have a logjam of extra year of eligibility. So you have 1,200 kids or so that have an extra year of eligibility. That's 1,200 opportunities that other kids aren't getting. And so I think it's hurt junior college kids, which is kind of an avenue that we're looking at. We haven't had a ton of success recruiting junior college, but now everyone's hitting the transfer portal so much, and there's so many COVID year kids out there that I think some junior college kids are getting overlooked. And I think it helped us with some freshmen. I mean, the 3 kids we have signed, especially Reagan McCowan and Kaylin Reed, are just really, really good players that I don't know that we could have got in the past when you didn't have those extra kids with the COVID year out there and kids in the transfer portal being recruited.
I mean, I think that people kind of miss the whole recruitment thing too. How hard is that? I mean, we obviously love Macomb, we love Western, we love West Central Illinois. There's not a lot here. I mean, there really isn't. How hard is it? How big of a challenge is it for not just you, anybody recruiting, to bring kids to Western and get them to want to be here?
I think, it's definitely a challenge, because the things that we all love about Macomb, some college kids, a lot of college kids probably don't appreciate. Now, some do, and that's why we're able to get some kids that want more of a community feel, that want to be surrounded with people that are trustworthy. And so, but it's not a glamorous place. Now, I do think that's had a funny side effect in that it's allowed us to recruit really good kids. We've been top 5 to 10 in the nation, team GPA almost every year. And every coach says, we've got such a good group of kids, but we really have some of the best kids in Division I basketball as a team. And I think part of that reason is because their decision-making process to come to Western is not based on facilities or, how many chain restaurants there are in town,
Right. Is there a Taco Bell and a Lone Star, or is there just a Taco Bell?
I did have a mom tell me once that their kid didn't come here because we didn't have a Sonic. So, that was I almost opened up a Sonic to try to get to work. But, but it kind of weeds out some kids that I think maybe, make their decisions on things that are a little more superficial. And what we get is just some really good, organically good kids, and so that's a real positive, but it's challenging. It is. It's challenging to bring a college kid into Macomb. Some of their high school facilities nowadays, you go up to Wisconsin, some of them are nicer than the places around here, and But at the same time, we have a lot to draw. And when a kid comes on a visit, they like it because they meet people in town, and people will just talk about, oh, we love Coach Gravina, oh, we love the coach staff, oh, we love the girls so much. And then they feel that, and that's important to them. So that does help.
And that's the thing is, you see the gym at Western Hall, and it's not full a lot. But that's not necessarily because there's no support here. We don't have the population draw area, right? That's a lot of even schools in the Summit have, right? So is that a problem at all for you when you're recruiting?
I think that attendance-wise, it's hard to be consistent because you've got the same people that are fans of our program that are also going to the high school game. It's like when our football team played North Dakota State and our Macomb high school team was playing in the state quarterfinals or whatever it was. I mean, there's just not enough crowd to support both. And it is such a community that they're going to support the high school the same way. And so I'm actually not disappointing our crowd. When we've been pretty good. I think we were third in the conference in home attendance. It's tough with college women's basketball, especially at the mid-major level. I mean, you go to a lot of the schools in bigger cities. I mean, you go to Nebraska, Omaha. Now they'll publish their attendance as like 2,000. I'm telling you, there's 80 people in the crowd, and 40 of them are parents. So I think that, when things kind of go well, there's not other things going on in town, and there's good marketing, like we get some good crowds, and I think that in the recruiting process they can see that. But sometimes it's tough. They come to a game and it's one of those games where maybe we're on break and there's something else going on, there's 200 fans in the crowd. But our mentality as a program is those 200 people still decide to take their evening, come watch us play, and that means a lot to us.
Break games are probably hard all the way around, aren't they?
They are. The band's often not there, and there's no students or not many students, so it's just tough. And it seems like we always get kind of unlucky with our schedule to have more games in the conference over break and more bigger games, but it's just kind of the way it goes. But it makes a huge difference. You look at the attendance figures over that Christmas break, it makes a really big difference.
Let's talk about Madison Allen for a minute. She's the local girl on the squad right now. I mean, you've had several through the years. She's a walk-on, and she's been on. She played tonight. We're going to have her in our highlights a little bit later. It's got to be nice to have that local, taste or flavor or feel to your team, isn't it?
It is, and Madison is just one of the sweetest kids I've ever met. Her nickname on the team is Sunny because she's just always, in a bright, happy mood. And, the thing about Madison is the biggest reason I thought about not letting her walk on was she's too good for a walk-on. And, a lot of those walkers, you want them really to understand their role. They're just there to kind of support the team, get after in practice. But Madison, I mean, she's a really good basketball player, and she's not, that scrub walk-on that people, usually have in that role. In fact, she earned a scholarship. And she's a kid that, if we did not have such a deep team, I think she could get in there and contribute a little bit more. And you never know as the year goes on. I mean, she is an experienced kid. She shoots it well. She's got some physicality. So she's right there with a lot of our players, and we just love having her around.
Well, it was kind of neat as I watched the game tonight, as I watched the end of the game come, and you put everybody in. It really looked like they all kind of flow pretty well together. Yeah. I mean, that probably makes your job harder too, doesn't it?
It does. It does. In fact, this is the first year, usually by this time in practice, you're almost always first team, second team, and you might shuffle some kids around a little bit, but we have not been able to do that because I have no idea who my first team and second team is. And also I feel like the quote-unquote second teamers, are right there, that they need to be having that experience with the kids that would be the first team. But I've considered going 5 in, 5 out. I've never done that before, but I think we've got the type of team that could do that, and maybe you get used to playing with a certain group and you guys find a rhythm, and maybe it would not be as, disconnected. But I think overall they do play well together, and I think as the season goes on that will get better and better. And so I'm hoping that will be something that can help spark us.
The 5-on-5 thing, I think, is usually we're going to run the heck out of the floor and just run everybody to death. But there's a lot to be said that I don't want to sub somebody because I don't want to break up a rhythm.
Right.
If you can find 2 groups of 5 that have that rhythm, I mean, I don't see why that wouldn't be an effective method of coaching or playing.
Yeah, and I think you could you wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I definitely wouldn't do the running them in and out every 40 seconds or whatever it is.
Right.
A group may play for 3 or 4 minutes, and it may be an up and down with not a lot of whistles blown, and we might get the other group in there as they get tired, and that group may end up playing 5 or 6 minutes. They get on a little roll. It makes a little bit of complicated, if you have a kid that's playing really well, and you don't want to keep them out, but you want to get that other group in there. Right. I think that can make it tough. But
I suppose fouls cause that.
Foul trouble would be that,
too, right?
And who's shooting it well. If Anna Dietz has hit 3 threes and you're having to take her out with her group, because you want the other group in as well. I think that could be tough, but and I've also thought about getting the point where just everyone has a almost like a 2 deep in football. Everyone's got a backup, and when you're tired, backup goes in. When you're back ready, you go. And I think we've kind of gotten a little bit of that rhythm, but then of course you have the same problems. Maybe you have Carla Flores and Zaria Chevry is kind of that 2 deep, but they're both playing really well, and you want to get Carla more minutes, but you don't want to take Z out. So now you put Carla in front of the other kids, you mess the whole system up. So unfortunately, I don't think there's an easy answer for it.
That's the reason why it's not the easiest job in the world to be a coach, right?
It can be tough sometimes, but it's fun. Before
we let you get out of here, what would you say to area people? And we're not talking just Macomb, just area people, because Macomb is kind of centrally located in west central Illinois. I mean, Quincy people could come, Quad City people, Burlington, Iowa, Keokuk, Peoria people can even come. What would you say to anybody that wants to come watch the Leathernecks women's team?
Well, I mean, I think it's neat to, especially people from a little bit smaller town, to get to watch good Division I basketball. And, in all honesty, that's not just us, but that's the other team. I mean, I think that getting to watch a team like Tarleton, who's from Texas, plays a little different style, I think is fun, especially for younger and girls that play basketball. And we're trying to really build that. I know Paul Bubb's really supportive of trying to get a lot more groups in, a couple high school teams that are here, middle school teams, youth basketball teams. And I just think that's a really good experience. The other thing is we're going to play hard. I think even tonight you saw that in the second half. I mean,
Definitely.
There's just no quit in our team, and I can really appreciate that, because that can be frustrating. It can be easy to get down on each other. So I think that's something that's worth watching. And then I just think that we have such a good group, and our fans really get to know our players in a way that most places don't because of the community. You may notice at the end of the game, we don't even go into the locker room. We just, get a quick break and let them right out to say hi to the fans. Most of them go to talk to some of the fans before they go talk to their own families. And so I just think that access to the players is really neat as well.
And I think the kids really enjoy that too, right? I saw there was a group of South Fulton young kids, young girls there that took part in some of the stuff during the game. They may never play at Western, right? But as a basketball coach, you have to feel like part of your job probably is to keep not just the little girls, but all those kids, get them to where they love the sport of basketball, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's just 100% true. And that's something that's really important to me. And, even as a father, like my kids it's such a blessing for them to grow up around the gym, around the players. And I want that for other people's kids because I see how that important is in their development. And, I love seeing groups there. I saw that South Fulton group and getting to talk to the players. And you're right. Maybe that means they go play junior college basketball. Maybe it means they go out for their high school team when normally they were on the fence about it. But I think at the end of the day, that's probably one of the most important things about being, especially kind of a small college or mid-major level basketball coach.
The last thing is Western is a Division I school. Do you feel like sometimes, I know I probably do it myself, do you feel like sometimes people, because, it's just Western, that they kind of, they're so used to it being here and they're so, they kind of get nonchalant about it, sort of. Do you think people kind of forget that Western, though it may not be the 15,000 it used to be, it's still a Division I school that plays really good sports that maybe we don't take enough advantage of? I
think we can take it for granted a little bit, and especially when we're struggling. The state budget impasse really set us back, and I think we are on a better path now, but it's taking some time. And I think everyone likes a successful program. I mean, the year we won the conference and went to the NCAA tournament, and the next year we beat Stanford and Illinois. I thought people really kind of got what we were as a Division I program. But the other thing is there's such a wide variety of Division I.
Right.
And I think obviously of the BCS schools, and when we get to go play one of those programs, and, we've had so much success on the men's and women's side beating BCS programs, and I think that's really neat. When the men beat Nebraska, again, we beat Stanford, Illinois, beat Butler. The men beat, let's see who Billy Wright beat, Wisconsin.
Right.
It just kind of shows you that we can still step up and play at that level, and that we are at that level. But you have that, and then you've got kind of the Missouri Valley Conference, who maybe thinks they're better than we are, right. And in some ways financially probably is. But yeah, we're a little spoiled around here for, I always say it's like it's a small town, but, we've got Macomb Country Club, and I love it out there. And it's the same thing with Western, to have Division I sports and still be able to have that smaller town community, I think is a really neat combination.
Downtown Athletic Club is one of those things, kind of, right? You come to most of those meetings, or when you're not out of town or whatever. That's kind of that same thing, right? I mean, that's a group of people who I think truly appreciate what Western offers.
Absolutely. And I think that's just such a neat group of people. And that's why, I love going up there and talking, and I make a point to do it even when we struggle. I'll be there Monday to kind of to show my face and face, the loss. But people are really understanding and supportive. And, I look around the arena, and even with a good crowd, I know 90% of the people in there by name, and I think that's really neat. I've got relationships with those people, and even this group up here at the Sports Corner. As much trouble they give me, I love coming up here. And
as long as they aren't getting you in trouble,
that's
they're
true.
just giving you
that's
trouble, right? That's
what
matters.
Come up here and be verbally abused by them a little bit, and wear it. But
you probably get verbally abused by some of those guys back there. You don't have to be up here for that to happen.
That's true. That's a good point.
So, well, Coach, I greatly appreciate you coming up here and talking to us. As you said, wasn't the night you wanted, obviously, but I thought the girls played hard. We'll look forward to maybe getting you on here again sometime later in the season, maybe if you have some time. We're going to try to – I talked to Scott Holland. He's going to send us some highlights so we can keep people informed of what's going on for you guys. And you're definitely right. You got a group of girls that play hard, and they obviously want to get to the point where they're winning all the time instead of just playing in some games. Yeah, hopefully we can get away from moral victories and start to win some games. So when I get up here and talk to you next time, hopefully it's about all of our improvements. All right. Well, Coach J.D. Gravina, I can't even talk. It's that kind of day. Thanks for coming up and talking to us. Greatly appreciate it. We'll be back on TSSR Weekly, live from Sports Corner at 124 in just a couple minutes.
At Western Illinois University, Leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there's limitless potential, with campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a Leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
MTC Communications is building a high-speed fiber network in our community, and we're putting priority on the areas with the greatest interest. That means we need your input to let us know you want us to build fiber in your area first. Experience the speed and convenience of fiber internet by visiting our special website and registering. Let us know you want fiber internet today, and make your voice heard.
We're always moving. Scratch that. We're always moving forward. But forward can sometimes look a little backwards. Or like circles. Or like nothing at all. But we never stop. We never stop because life never stops. It's hard to stop a train.
And welcome back to Sports Corner at 124. From one coach at Western to another, Rob Jeeter from the WIU men's basketball team is here. Coach, you got you a win tonight. I don't think it was probably the way you wanted it necessarily, right. But you got the win.
Yeah, much needed win. We new group. You look at college basketball right now. Every year, teams always have a different group.
Right.
I mean, if you're lucky or fortunate to bring enough guys back, then you're different than everyone else. I'm going to tell you that. But for us, we had some games UTRGV, like we had the game. 3 seconds we have to guard, and we did not do that. And the way it unfolded was the opposite. You just want someone to make a tough shot over you. We got a little too close. Guy, we gets a layup. And then we had a guy from the corner could have swiped. We had another guy that could have came over and helped. Didn't help. And the guy that got beat could have veered off. I mean, all the things that you've really been working on all summer, it didn't play out that way. So that stung a little bit more because of we got really internal, really selfish, right? Okay, you move on, and then we come here, come back home after Thanksgiving, play a Youngstown State team that's really good, and we just really gave in, and we were really being challenged on our identity, who we really want to be. And I was really trying to I wasn't sure of the response tonight, but we got a good response. Guys played well, played hard, another really talented team, and we got a much-needed win.
Well, you guys came out at the beginning of both halves and played really well, scored a bunch of points, and in both of those halves, Southern Indiana battled back and made it close at the end of each half. You guys were leading by 2 at half, and you ended up winning with the strength of some free throws down the stretch.
Yeah.
Did you feel like Southern Indiana picked up their game, or did you see something change in your guys to get a little passive, or
both?
A little
bit of both. I mean, that team is pretty talented, and they're not just going to go away. I was pleased with the fact that we did some ordinary things well.
Right.
And that's been what we've been really preaching to this team. Like, we have to do the ordinary and then allow some of the extraordinary stuff like a Josiah West coming from nowhere blocking shots. I mean, that's just a athletic play. Trent Masner hitting some of those fadeaway shots that he makes. That's just being more talented or being a talented player. But for this team, just do the ordinary, box out. Make sure that whatever our standards are defensively, we stick to those. And that's been challenged over this early part of our season, and we failed. We have failed on those. Tonight, we did enough of the ordinary things to get the win, and that was what was really good to see. And you asked that they played hard. They weren't going to give in, and they closed the first half well. That's been part of our issue. We haven't finished the first half. We start off well, and then we don't finish the first half. Youngstown State, last 4 minutes, we're down 8. It was a tie game. But then we started the second half well. And then we made free throws down the stretch, just doing the ordinary. I mean, you got to step up to the line and make free throws. So that's what I was really pleased with how we won tonight. I think it will it really will go a lot further than, some of those wins where you win by 12 to 15 and, 20 points and things just kind of go your way. We had to battle through some adversity.
Josiah West, I think, is a really athletic kid. Yeah. I think Masner is more athletic maybe than people give him credit for sometimes.
Very deceptive.
But he really felt like in the first half to dish the ball a little bit. He was getting other people involved, and West was one of the ones that took advantage of that.
Yeah, and we there's certain things that we want to do, and we're trying to get to the free throw line. We're trying to get more shots than the other team. We're trying to get fouled to do that, and Trenton can get in the space. He's going to draw too. Now you have to make a good decision, and we made some pretty good decisions tonight.
So you guys get the win. Maybe you haven't had the early season that you want, but the reason why you do these games before conference, right, is to learn some things about your team, make a few corrections, I would imagine, and then be as good as you can be when that conference season starts.
Absolutely. Right? You just flip from last year. So we go to a Northern Kentucky. We went on a tip-in late at the buzzer. Okay, that's a UTRGV. We had that win, and it slipped through our fingers. Well, it didn't slip through our fingers last year. You take a look at Youngstown. That was more of we have to make sure that we're not – who's going to give in? Are we going to give in to some shortcuts? Or are we going to just really dive into being more of a grimy, tough, do what's really required to win championships? Or do we just try to win a game? And for me, for my philosophy is that we're always trying to be the best team, prepare for the best players. So there's no shortcuts in that. And sometimes you might have to take a step back to move forward. We were lucky enough last year to get around that with our shooting. And we weren't as good as our record. We were 10-1 at that time, but we really weren't that good. And I would tell the guys that. But for us, this team can be a better team in our conference if we buy into it now. So take a few of these hits now so that we won't see those later. And hopefully they're starting to understand that, because that's what I would really like to see with this group.
Well, you're learning how to do things without something working right for you, right?
Yeah.
Without that tip working and without the shooting working. If you can learn those things instead of waiting until conference to have those problems, it has to be better for you as a coach, and because you actually get to coach then, right? I would imagine when you're 10-1 and beating teams that people don't expect, it's hard to probably – it's not hard to coach, but it's hard to get kids to listen to you, or harder to get kids to listen to you, because they're like, Coach, we're winning.
Well, what's the expression? Fool's gold, right? When last year we're spraying the ball around the court, and balls are going in. We're shooting from deep, and we're taking some tough threes, and they're all going in, and it felt really good. But your legs get a little heavier in January, February. They're going to be a little shorter. So now can you do the tougher things? And we just couldn't put enough of that together down the stretch in the conference. Any coach would tell you they would much rather have a really strong conference season compared to non-conference. But you want to win every game. So I think this group, we have, the Paul game was one we were there, but we really weren't there. And then you go to Central Florida, we just couldn't figure out how to score. We don't have Trenton. And then we start playing some teams where we figure we can get some things going, and to let one slip away, RGV, then we come back home, lay an egg, don't really play well. So it's basketball, it's sport, but this team can get better, and I saw some signs of us getting better tonight.
I haven't talked to you very much. You don't seem much like a moral victory kind of guy.
No.
So for you this season, is this an easier season for you to be the head coach than last season? Because you can say, look, we need to work on this, and you don't have to find things and take that moral victory of beating somebody and doing things?
Well, I think for me and most coaches, like we want to have a program. We want to build a program. We want to build standards, right? You want to have a bunch of guys that have been through your program for 2-3 years that are letting the younger guys know this is how we do it. We don't do it this way. We do it this way. And you're trying to build that program. It is very difficult now with all of the transfers, people coming and going. So you look at who could have returned for us this year. Now, if we had those guys, they could be setting the example for the younger guys. So that's what I'm used to. We have to adapt now because it's a different landscape in college basketball. So part of my DNA is that there are no more victories. Victories are done. It's hard to win. We do it our way, and if we lose our way, hey, we move on. But our way is a way that's going to produce more victories because it's based on fundamentals and being sound and not beating yourself, not giving up 20 points on turnovers, which we did tonight. So even though you may win a game, but you do that, it still doesn't sit well with me because I know we can be better. So, no, I'm not really a moral victory guy. I mean, I'll take a win, but I think you can learn a lot more from winning when you win ugly than, let's say, when you win a game, but you didn't do it your way, right? It's easier to go in the film room and teach that rather than losing. Now, guys, they have their guards up. They're in their feelings. It's harder to get some of those messages through. So we'll learn more tomorrow in film than we had learned after the Youngstown State game.
I talked to Coach Gravina a few minutes ago and asked him about the transfer portal and to see what his take has been on it for Western. I don't think people really expected Western to be a school that loses kids to the transfer portal. They maybe think they bring them in, but they don't lose them. He's lost a couple. You've obviously lost a couple. Has it been a surprise to you at how that whole thing is shaken out?
It's been an adjustment. Any coach that says that they're not a little like, whoa, I think they're not telling the truth. But any good coach then knows how to adjust. So I think what you're seeing is coaches adjusting and figuring out, okay, if this is how it is, we have to prepare. So I think tonight you look at both teams. You look at UIS. There's some pretty talented players out there. How did they get there? I mean, UIS was a Division II team. Now it's transitioning into Division I. And how did they get there? Well, the transfer portal is loaded with so many players that if you are doing your jobs correctly, you can reload. And we look at Division II, we look at Division III. I mean, Alec Rosner is a Division II player. I mean,
and he's not too bad.
Will Karras was Division III. So you talk about us, everyone wants to say what they say about Western, but we have some players that can put up numbers in play, so they're going to move up. You just have to kind of adjust with it.
Do you have a type of player that you look for? I haven't got to see your teams play a lot, but I've been around Western for a long time. I feel like watching a couple of games that I've got to watch of your team, this is as athletic of a team as Western's probably ever had. I mean, it used to be if there was a dunk, it was amazing. Yeah. Now you've got 6 guys on your team that could just drop it whenever they want to.
Well, I appreciate that.
But is that kind of the player you look for, or?
Yeah, we're looking at personalities, and then we're looking at competitiveness. Because the one thing that's always a constant is if you're doing your job right, they're going to be talented players. Like, okay, they can shoot the ball. They can put the ball in the basket. I think that's the first thing that gets you. But for me, I go a little bit beyond that. How does this guy handle a little adversity? Does he guard? Because now you need some guys to do that. So Josiah West becomes more of a priority for me because defensively he can change things. Like tonight, we don't win that game tonight if Josiah West doesn't jump as high as he does. So now you start putting pieces together, and it's just trying to fit it all. And the toughest part when you bring all together now, getting all on the same page of how you want things to unfold, how you want your defensive rotation. Offensively, you let them go. But defensively is where it becomes more of an issue because late in the game, the tendency is I got to guard my guy. I'm not guarding the ball. I'm guarding my guy. My guy ain't scoring.
Right.
But I've never seen 2 points made from a guy that jumps through the hoop himself. The ball goes through there. So we have to guard the ball. That takes a little bit more discipline, a lot more time to get people to be comfortable to trust that, okay, this is my job. This guy comes here, I've got to move here. Guess what? Then my teammate's going to cover me. That takes a little bit more time, and I think that's our work in progress with this group.
Do you think obviously you're looking for those kind of kids. Mm-hmm. Are those kind of kids in today's society hard to find? Because I think everybody would say in general, most people, not just kids, most people in society today I want to do something good for me. Yeah. So I want to score, or I'm going to stop, like you said, my guy. Yeah. Are the kids that you're looking for getting harder to find, or is it just knowing what to look for in the kids?
Well, they're getting harder for a couple of reasons. One is the shot clock is moving down. I mean, when I played, and I hate to say, like I'm this old guy, back when I played, right? But there was more time.
Right.
Like, so I watch high school games here in Illinois. There's no shot clock. You can move the ball, move bodies. You can teach guys how to play. You always have a chance to almost level the playing field if you can, with body movement and player movement, smart decisions. Well, now with 30 seconds, 22, by the time you get across half court, you got to have guys that can go get it, right? So I think that has helped. That has hurt. The other piece is, man, everything now is about individuals. Like when guys work out, individual workouts.
Right.
It's a 5-on-5 sport, right? It's an individual workout. And what is it? It's a skill workout. So now I'm working on me.
Right.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee that 90% of these workouts, and there's multiple players in there, they're not working on 2 versus 2, defensive rotations, or it's one-on-one offense. So everything is more geared towards individuals, and even the way we label individual workout, individual skill, one-on-one. You start talking about breaking people down, spreading out, going one-on-one off the bounce, rather than teamwork. And that's the last time I checked. Even tonight, there was 5 guys on the court, and that's what it really comes down to.
You'd have to have a lot of fouls to get less than 5 guys on the court.
Well, We've been close to that a couple games.
You mentioned that individual stuff.
Yeah.
You think that's the reason why offense is kind of the easy thing to find,
Yeah.
and defense is kind of a forgotten art in a lot of times?
It is. I mean, tonight we scored with 86 points. I mean, I've coached, this is a year of 13, 14 as a head coach. I mean, rarely do my team score 86, but it's what this game is being pushed to be like, right? More possessions. And then trying to find guys that are going to be patient, because everyone can, one-on-one can get to a place. I mean, I remember a time where the ball didn't touch the floor. I remember a time where you didn't screen, you have a ball screen. I mean, Bob Knight would teach, why would you bring an extra defender to the ball? Space. Work together. There's one basketball, there are two tandems. Work together.
And you find yourself open with the ball, with the guy with the ball easily passing to you or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, now guys are so skilled with the ball. They can go one-on-one. They can get to places. Very one-on-one defense is very difficult to play, especially inside in the post. And now everyone is so skilled, the ball goes in. And it makes it just puts pressure on. So what do? You have to adjust. You got to adjust.
So what was your thought? You were a successful coach before you came to WIU. What was your thought process coming to WIU, knowing that there are some limitations to WIU, not because it's not a great school or got support from its community, but its community's not real big. What was your thought process of coming to Western?
First was that I'm from Chicago, short ride away, like 3.5 hours, right? A lot of the players that I recruited to Milwaukee came from this area, So you look at the junior college belt that's through here, high school players like Ethan Hatt, we recruited, and Ethan Hatt just gets better and better, so he goes to Wisconsin. That's part of our family. So I was very familiar with the recruiting base through here. I would say I went to a small school. I went to Platteville. That's where I went to college. So I've been in communities where it's 10,000. Well, it's 20,000 here.
Right.
So this wouldn't be an adjustment for me. Now, for my family, it'd be a little different. But I just felt as though I could recruit in this area because I had contacts and I had relationships, and we had been successful here. So that was going to help. Then it was a matter of, do I have enough? Do I have what I need to get guys better? So you look at Western Hall. We have access to that. Brophy, we have access. We have space to develop. Now, the kicker to it is like what usually scares everyone away is like, all right, is there tradition of success? That was a challenge, right?
Right.
Do you have support? Are you able to provide the basic needs for guys? I felt like we could. But is it sexy? Is it pretty? That's not Macomb.
Right.
But you know what? I think everyone that lives here, we embrace that. We're not worried about all that. We just want, we have what we need. We have great people, so we just focus on that.
Well, there are bonuses to not having some of that flashy stuff too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, as far as the community goes, you've got a boy, it's a junior in high school. We talk about him a lot, right?
Yeah.
On our TSSR stuff.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best receivers in the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about him for the most part
No.
at school or on the street or anything, right?
Yeah.
It's a relatively safe environment here.
Yeah.
That's got to be some sort of a sales point for some people.
Oh,
right?
that's big. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, not south suburbs, right? South side. And I'm not saying where I lived, it was, there was train tracks there, you go on the other side of the tracks, it was trouble everywhere. Chicago now is, my mom still lives there, my brother is in the area, all my family's still there. We used to take the bus to school. I don't know if I would have put my kids in that environment.
Right.
Just because of some of the things that could happen. Now, I love the city. I love to go back. But to raise a kid through there are challenges. Here it's a lot easier. And he's able to excel. You're not doing a lot of recruiting in Macomb. You go to Macomb High, that's where you play. Right? You don't have to worry about kids coming from all over. Like in Chicago, you can be a little bit more, well, let's get a kid from here, come here, move in. There's a lot more dynamics that go into being in a bigger city.
Do you obviously you got some ties to Southeastern Community College. You were talking about junior colleges. Indian Hills isn't far away. Southeastern always has really good teams, and they bring in a lot of kids.
John Wood down the road.
John Wood.
Yep.
Do you feel like that's a place that you guys really want to continue to grow your kind of stuff, especially in this transfer portal era?
Well, you have to have guys that are ready to step in and play because of you look at our team this year. We only have one junior college player that's in our starting lineup. The rest are transfer portal, right, from Division I places. Trenton, Quillian Bennett, Vuk. Josiah's the one that's from a junior college. And then Alec. Alec is a Division II transfer portal. The other one is that's a transfer from a JUCO is Steph Gabriel, who started off at Bradley, then went junior college and comes in. So you have to have a mix. And then I have some high school players. I've got KJ Lee, comes out of St. Louis. Then I've got my son. He comes from me from Minnesota. So you have to have a mix, but you cannot be young and inexperienced and be ready to compete in today's age of college basketball. It's just you're putting yourself in a really big hole. So you have to be able to finesse both. You got to kind of work it all together.
How hard is it for you to find a freshman, incoming true freshman, that you want to have as maybe a kid that you can bring in, redshirt, and then build a program around? Is that something that in today's world of transfer and all that other stuff, is that something that any school can do anymore?
Well, it's I feel like it's still necessary. So we have the one guard out of Minneapolis. Boy, I'm trying to it's escaping me now, and I know that's bad because he's a very important player. He's very good. And we need those players because you need guys to develop. So now when Trenton's gone next year, I have a player that's went against Trenton. He's young. We're developing him. And then now he's eventually going to be ready to step in and play. But you also know that when he has that good year, he's probably going to leave.
Right.
But you still can't eliminate those high school guys. You got to have some youth in your program. You can't have a bunch of guys that all come from other places. You got to have some youth, some guys that are willing to wait their turn, some guys you want to develop. I mean, we're still in the development business. We're trying to develop men and basketball players. You just can't just bring a bunch of older players. All right, just go out there and play. I mean, that's pro-like, right?
Right.
So I think like I said, you got to finesse all of it. And it's a challenge. It's a different challenge, but I think as coaches we're starting to learn. Every year we do this, we're getting a little bit better at it, So eventually we'll get the hang of it.
How important is it for you to have, you say you're trying to grow men, and you hear coaches from the time they start, right?
Yeah.
How important is it for you for the kids that you bring to this campus and this community to carry the same kind of mindset and to turn into those good men that you're talking about?
It takes time. I mean, especially now when you're talking about transfers, why they leave here, why they come in here, and they're looking at you now, and I just want to play. But as I remind them, when I come here, I'm representing you. So when I'm out in the community, I represent you guys. When you guys are here, you represent me. And let's face it, I mean, there's still life. There's a life without basketball.
Right.
So what are the lessons that basketball can help you with life? You can't miss those. If you miss those, you're going to struggle when the ball stops bouncing. And so you have to take advantage. You have to use basketball and not have basketball use you. So those messages have to be there. Some guys aren't really ready to receive them at that time, but it's amazing how 5, sometimes 3 years, once they're gone, Coach, you remember you used to say this? Man, I find myself saying that. Now I know what you mean.
To my kid or the kids I coach or whatever, right?
I was the same way, and I think that is the legacy of teaching and coaching. And, I've been blessed and fortunate to was raised in a household. My dad was a Rose Bowl champion, Super Bowl champion, All-Pro, super competitive. My mom was a teacher. We adopted kids. We had foster kids. So I was raised in that environment, and then I was really fortunate enough to find good coaches. Started with Father Mike Ivers. He was my wrestling coach, track coach, basketball coach, flag football coach. followed him to high school where he became my guidance counselor. Super talented man, but a cutting-edge coach. I mean, in track, he would drag us around the track with his Caprice Classic. He put ropes to the back. He can't do that stuff now.
Right.
But I was very fortunate to be around those types of coaches. And then Bo Ryan, Hall of Fame coach.
Right.
So I've been very fortunate to be around. And the one thing that's always been a constant was respect, life lessons, and these messages that go beyond the sport but transcend into life. I can't help it. I still coach that way.
So football, basketball. JT might be leaning to football, it sounds like maybe.
Right.
Does that like hurt your heart at least a little bit that maybe he's going football instead of basketball?
It's funny you say that because that was the question my dad would get about us, me and my brother Carlton. So my dad, obviously he played, was all-state in West Virginia, all-American high school player, went to Iowa, Rose Bowl champion, Rose Bowl MVP. Went to Green Bay, played on the first 2 Super Bowls, world champion in the first 2 Super Bowls, all pro, played for the Packers. That's how we got for the Bears. That's how we got to Chicago. His nephew played at USC. Gary Jeeter played at USC, played for the Rams in '85. The Bears Super Bowl shuffled over him to win the championship, right. the Super Bowl then. You know, my dad's brother played for the Steelers and the Packers. I had another cousin that played football at Pittsburgh. So my whole family is football.
So what the heck happened to you?
And the question my dad was, does it hurt your heart that they're playing basketball? And he would say, I never get the answer, well, I love basketball too. I thought I was as good of a basketball player. I'm like, Dad, you're a 6'2" center. Come on. You can't play ball, right? But no, he just loves sports. So, and I find myself the same way. It's like, well, my kids to kind of navigate through whatever sport they want to play, but it is important for me to play sports because sports teaches you so much about life. You got to compete. You know, you got to handle adversity. You got to handle success. You got to work together. You know, sometimes things don't go your way. You know, what are you going to do? So it's more important that they play a sport than just maybe if it's not basketball, that's okay, but it can be football.
He's pretty decent. Does it? What's it? I mean, you're used to seeing good athletes, right? You're used to. I mean, your family's got them before him, and you see him every day at the gym. Yeah. Does it make you feel a little? How much more special does it feel to see him breaking records as a junior at Macomb High School, and people talking about D1 talent and beyond that? What's that do for you, knowing where your dad was and where you've been, and now where it looks like he's going?
What I'm most proud about is to see him. What people don't see is that, like, he'll get up and he'll work out. Like we have things at the house where he'll work out on his own. The discipline that he puts in to try to get better, but the fact that he's having fun, and to see him play with a passion and play with that desire and competitiveness to win, that's what makes you. As a parent, that makes anyone feel good. But I know my dad is smiling down. Yeah. I know my dad is very proud of him. You know, all my kids wear 21. He doesn't have 21 in basketball, so he wears 3 in honor of my dad. And it's like, I don't make them wear it. They all wear it. It's pretty cool to see that and to just see him have that success. You know, my older son, Robert, things were a little more tougher for him. But he was a grinder playing college basketball for me. JT, things were a little easier. He was the kid that was always climbing on something at the house, you know, doing flips and stuff, you know, and all of a sudden he was basketball. He played baseball in Vegas. That's all he did. He didn't play basketball, and he didn't really play football. All he did was play baseball all year round. Then we go to Minneapolis, he got rid of baseball, started playing football and basketball. Now he comes here, and he's turned into a football player. So it's fun as a parent to watch your kid, like, get to that point where you can see them have success at something. It doesn't matter what it is. So I'm really enjoying it. Now I've got 2 younger ones behind them, and I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, so it's going to be fun to watch them as well.
So how much sibling rivalry is there? Now, you had brothers,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Do you see that same? I mean, you had to have some. I have two brothers, and one of them didn't play any sports, but it's everything you do, there's a rivalry. So are they spread out enough that that's maybe not going to be a
They're
thing?
spread out just enough. They're spread out just enough. You know, Robert's in school now. He's 30 in college. JT still has, he still has another year of high school. Spread out just enough, so they're disconnected. My daughter's 11, and my youngest son, he's 9. So there's more of a battle there. But you know, she's a girl, he's a boy, so it's a little different. But Jackson, in my opinion, he's got a chance to be. He's got a chance to be pretty doggone good too. So it's gonna be fun to see these guys grow up. Hopefully, that's why I try to stay in shape. So I don't want to miss a minute of it.
Well, you don't want to. I mean, you can't be having your 12-year-old youngest beating you at basketball or something either,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
I mean, you got to stay. You got to stay until it takes a man to beat you, right?
Yeah, and you know kids now, they'll say something smart here and there. You got to be really, hey, you hold your own a little bit, because if not, they'll run the house. And that's not happening in my house. No way.
So listen to you talk about all that stuff.
Yeah.
How much do you, when you're recruiting a player, do you look at what else they've done?
Yeah.
Because you talked about the one-on-one stuff, which tells me probably if they only play basketball, they've spent a lot of time with that one-on-one guy probably.
Yeah.
Do you like finding kids that play 2, 3, or 4 sports?
Oh, I love it. So Division III, obviously we're getting kids to come play for free. Our big thing was football players that were also basketball players, particularly quarterbacks that also played basketball, because they were leaders, they were tough, right? Start finding guys that play multiple sports. That means they're athletic, they can adapt. They've been around a little bit. So I've always loved that. Now, as it gets in this day and age, kids specialize so much. It's harder when you're in the bigger cities. Now, when you're here in the smaller towns, I mean, JT's going to run track. The baseball coach is always trying to recruit him to come out. He's playing basketball now, so I love that. I love the fact they play multiple sports because, one, they're using different muscles, they're getting different agilities, and they're developing stronger relationships and friendships. That's what it's about. It's as important to do that than just to focus in on your sport. Don't do anything else. You're only hearing the same messages over and over. Now, you're hearing different messages when it comes to basketball, but it still applies. So, I always love to recruit the multiple sport guy. I think they're a little tougher, a little more competitive, and they can handle the ups and downs, because one sport they're not as good in, and it's just a different flow to them, a different swagger to them. I like multiple sport guys.
So 2 things before I let you go.
Yeah.
One, you talk about multiple sport guys and quarterbacks. Jack Duncan.
Yeah.
He's playing baseball at Western. He's already signed his national letter of intent. An all-state honorable mention quarterback, throwing to an all-state receiver in JT.
Yep.
And basketball's not his sport. That's what everybody says. Basketball's not his sport. But when he's on the floor, he may not be the best basketball player, but that team looks different when he's in the lineup.
Yeah, because he knows how to win. He's a winner. He's a quarterback. He's a leader. Quarterbacks, and in my opinion, guys that play multiple sports, when you move to a different one, it's like you've heard the term, you're playing chess or checkers, right?
Right.
So a quarterback has to play chess. Quarterback has to see the field. He has to understand, like, if I move a guy here, what's going to be the reaction? What's going to be the cause and effect of that? Love that, because that's life. Like, if I do this, there's always a cause and effect.
Right.
So as a coach, I use the term checkers, or you playing chess. Checkers are simple, basic moves. In order to be really good, you got to think about the counters that happen to that. What happens if I do this? And so on down the line. That's the higher level stuff that I think you get with multiple sport athletes.
And the other thing, I interviewed JT once this year after a football game, and we talked about the fact that he does play basketball. And he mentioned that as a receiver, all of the stuff he's learned as a basketball player, rebounding, getting position, translates to football. As a basketball coach, you probably like to hear that, but you talk about quarterbacks. Footwork is important for a quarterback. Footwork's important for a lineman. Any of that stuff. Yeah. That probably transfers to basketball too, right?
Oh, yeah. Footwork. And then think of the toughness. Like, for us, when guys come towards that paint or that lane, there's no free pass through there. You have to, because if you allow someone just to move to the front of the rim, they catch it, they're going to score.
Right.
So there's work that's required early before that. Same thing in football. When that ball is, it's like you got to hit a guy, you got to check a guy. You can't let a guy just run across the field, unimpeded. You got to do work early, and you got to be physical. And your footwork has got to be right, because we've taken drills from football and now put them in the basketball where, deep backs have to run. They're crossing over their feet, but they're keeping their shoulders square so that they don't get spun around. They get spun around. Now guys are throwing the ball to back shoulders and all that stuff. Well, it applies in basketball as well. I just think the physicality is something that is missed in basketball. In the 90s, it was really there. I mean, you knocked people down.
Right.
They're
out.
Still, and knocked them out. And then when they got up, knocked them down again.
Right.
But I think there's a toughness that is required in life, and you have to learn these lessons, and sports will do that for you.
Well, Coach, I greatly appreciate you coming. I've had you on here for probably longer than you wanted to, but I greatly appreciate it. Congrats on a win tonight, and hopefully we can get you on here a few more times.
I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it.
And we can get the place filled up. Probably at 10:55 at night is probably not the best time to get
on a
get
Wednesday
the place
night,
filled
right?
up. Yeah, right. But I greatly appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
We'll take another break and be back on TSSR Weekly with some highlights in just a few minutes. This has been a WIU men's coach, Rob Jeeter, talking to us, and a little bit about JT while he was at it. We'll be right back in just a minute.
MTC Communications is building a high-speed fiber network in our community, and we're putting priority on the areas with the greatest interest. That means we need your input to let us know you want us to build fiber in your area first. Experience the speed and convenience of fiber internet by visiting our special website and registering. Let us know you want fiber internet today, and make your voice heard.
At Country Financial, we enjoy serving the community in which we live, big or small.
I love living in the Blandonsville area. It's where I grew up, went to school, and decided to raise my family. I never had a desire to live or work anywhere other than in a small town. I feel lucky to help my longtime friends and neighbors with their insurance needs. It's like working with family every day.
I'm Brett Powell, your local Country Financial representative, whose door is always open to work with you.
At Western Illinois University, Leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there is limitless potential, with campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a Leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
And welcome back to Sports Corner 124. We're going to close this joint down. Sorry I talked so long. Kenny Suter is back with us, and we've got some WIU highlights from tonight. These were my videos, and I edited them. So folks probably should have low expectations of this. Kenny is the editor. I'm just the generally, hey, do this one, and he's like, okay. I'm surprised I got them done before we started.
You were in here for a good 30, 35 minutes going through just straight.
Yeah, I know. I'm not fast at it. I apologize, Kenny. So we got the women's basketball. My information went off on me already, as our first one is a little rocky starts things off. You can't have any Western highlights without Rocky, can you?
Of course not.
Anna Dietz misses the shot. The ball's tipped, and she's going to come right back and get fouled. She hits a couple free throws after this. Now J.D. Gravina talking to his team as Mallory McDermott gets it to Dietz again right here, and guess what? She's fouled again. Hits one of the free throws in this scenario as well. Chevry draws the charge right there. And now Jada Thorpe, who was in a lot of action, it gets it to Alyssa Fins for a highlight bucket there. And now Kennedy Flanagan gets the block right there. And then there's Flanagan getting the missed shot, rebound, and the putback. Addie Brownfield getting in the action here, as this is second half action. As she gets fouled and gets a couple free throws. Here's Thorpe driving to the hoop, and I love the action there on the right side. I didn't do anything. It was all arm, but who's counting, right? Chevry now puts up the shot, misses. It's tipped back to her, and then she's going to get the one in the arm. She might have been stepping on a baseline right there, but I'm not real sure. But anyway, she gets a little help up and gets the free throws. And here's Bushnell's Madison Allen going to get a shot attempt here. She doesn't make it, a little body. She didn't get her up top, but she got her down low. And then Madison gets both of her free throws, and that's how we'll end the highlights for the men's, or for the girls, I should say. And we'll go right to the guys' highlights now as Vuk is going to start things off. He started the game, and, man, they're just pounding down low right here. Little elbows, loses the ball, puts it back up. And now here's Masner missing a shot, and Josiah West gets the putback and the foul. He'll miss this free throw ultimately, but Quinlan Bennett's going to be the next beneficiary of the pass from Masner, and he puts it up and in. The old-fashioned three-point play attempt. Here's Alec Rosner. Josiah West again is who needs defense? Let's just dribble right around everybody. There's Rosner for three. Rosner's layup was high off the glass earlier. Here's Masner, pump fake. And it's going to be a miss by Rosner. Rosner gets the rebound, and then West gets the dunk right, bringing it down the baseline there. Here comes Elijah Farr. So he's got a nice shot from outside, but he can pound it down low as well. And here's one last one, Masner to West. West goes to the hoop, misses the shot, but gets the foul. And going to shoot a couple free throws. The Western men get the win tonight over University of Southern Indiana. What do you want to go to next? What do you got on here next? BPC?
The men's basketball game. I do believe this is the Illini West one here. Day 2, day 3 of the basketball tournament. There's Conley passing out to Yoakum for 3.
Nailed it. Dalton Yoakum had a good Saturday. This was a Saturday game, I do believe. Saturday morning, wasn't it?
I don't know. I was working during this.
Dalton Strode hits the tray as well.
Excuse me, Illini Bluffs. You had Illini West and Illini Bluffs in the same tournament for both the men's and women's tournaments that we had.
So this is Illini Bluffs. This is the night game. This is the last game. This is the game that got Macomb, or got West Hancock the championship and took it away from Macomb. There's a 3 again. I believe that was Dalton Yoakum again, wasn't it?
Indeed. A lot of threes at the beginning of this one.
Osmond Perelku is going to go right side. Ezra Mason had it blocked right there, wasn't it?
Oh, excuse me. I believe that was Yoakum.
Was it Yoakum? Oh, it was Yoakum again.
And then he gets the block, turns it around, and goes for the drive. Conley out here for a steal. You're going to see that a lot from him playing up front. He likes to go for the ball on the nice pass into Palm.
Caden Palm wanted to dunk that. I thought, man, if he controlled that earlier, he was going to try to dunk it. But here's a pull-up 3 by Jalen Conley. That kid has got some skills when things are going well for him.
Really does. It's just, as long as you keep your head up straight and, let the small stuff slide, he's just got a ball of fire no matter what.
Macomb girls now against Lewiston.
Actually, I believe this is the Mercer County game.
Mercer County game, okay.
Now, this was a great one. It's Holt House on the shot. You're going to see a lot of Hull House. Had the first 10 points for the Bombers, 12 overall in the game. As pretty much after that first quarter, she decided, let's pass it around a little bit, get some shots out towards everybody else.
Ainsley Holthouse is a very good basketball player, folks.
Indeed. And it'll be a reverse layup down on baseline.
What's funny is in her Thanksgiving tournament, it took her a while to get going, but she's obviously found her rhythm now. Caitlin Robinson with the left-handed floater kind of there.
High up on the glass. As Allensworth will drive in for two.
And a pass from Stortzum, as a matter of fact, if memory serves me correctly there.
Then shot missed, rebounded, and they pass it around real quick, passing to find the open Stufflebeam on the drive.
Sarah Stufflebeam is an outstanding point guard for the Lady Bombers.
And Stufflebeam will also get a steal here and take it all the way down to the rock. The Bombers win this one against Mercer County big. We get set. I do believe that will be the West Prairie game versus Illini Bluffs, Illini West. Who knows which one? Because apparently I can't remember which one is which.
This is Illini West, I'm pretty sure. It is Illini West.
Yep.
See a rough tournament for West Prairie.
Did have their last game, I do believe, against West Hancock. Did go better for them. They still ended up losing, but put up a good 30 or so points. Really just new team. You had losing 4 starters and your 6th man last year, all being seniors. You're going to have these growing pains in a team. As you're going to get a couple 3-pointers here from Denver Mitchell.
Denver Mitchell is a kid that can shoot the ball a little bit when he gets the shot, gets the opportunity, I should say. And there's a one from shy of the left wing, kind of up top of the key.
It's kind of his sweet spot. Always was around the corners last year alongside Coleman.
Andrew Hunt feeds him there. And
for the last one inside, you're going to be able to see on the turnover, on the transition inside, we'll find Ben Wren in the middle of the key for the last second layup. It's always nice when Ben gets going there. I've never seen anybody play harder in whatever time he can than Ben Wren for that West Prairie team.
And Macomb High boys had their week get much better than it started last week, as this is a game against Illini West. And I'll tell you what, there's Connor Watson nailing a tray from the right side, and it was a Langdon Allen job on Nolan Dietrich that was the difference. There's Braden Holthouse with a layup on a feed from Watson, I do believe. But it was Langdon Allen, the unsung hero in this. Nolan Dietrich, who scored 28 against Bushnell, was only able to get 7, and 3 of those were free throws. There was Connor Watson, and there was Connor Watson.
Watson all over this game.
Watson, and more Watson. Might have had Drew in there once or twice as well throughout the game, but there's a give and go with Watson from, is that Holthouse over there?
That is Duncan.
Duncan over there.
Great at passing, as we can already know.
There's Kendrick down low to Watson. Moving with the ball, moving without the ball, passing and moving, picking and rolling. He's doing it all.
And coming through some contact as well. He's going to pick up the and one.
Count it, and the foul for Connor Watson. There was a lot of highlights for the Bombers in these last 4 games of the Spartan Tip-Off Classic. That was Stufflebeam?
I do believe so.
Yeah, number 10, Stufflebeam, finishing things off with a nice little move on the baseline. Now we got BPC girls picking up a big win. This is their big win game, right?
Beardstown, 41-40 on 2 football games, as an unnamed source, I'll say, called it. Was a lot of letting them play down there as Suitors able to get the shot in.
You put a highlight of your sister in here?
Yeah, it's kind of rough to do. But a better one from Gil filling for 3, it's we get setting around. Kylie Norris inside played great. Had a third quarter for this game, our entire computer crashed, so I didn't have any highlights from that. So I can't tell you exact stats, but I do believe Kylie had north of 15 points for this team.
That was a pass from Suitor to Norris right there. She wasn't shooting that. That was a pass.
I have written down in my notes, Elizabeth misses open shot.
And there's Gilfillan with the putback, I think, of a miss by Miller.
And then nice give right behind, a little Euro step by Kylie Norris to get that in. Playing well, last year was able to come in off the bench a little bit, helping out on the post. This year, really getting into her own as a starter.
What you didn't show was Kylie Norris hitting 2 free throws with 24.2 seconds left, I think it was, something like that. I listened.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched. Hit 2 free throws, down by 1. She hit them both, and they won 41-40.
Yep.
Kylie Norris coming up big for BPC. And we'll throw some more Spartan basketball at you of the guys' variety now.
This one against West Hancock.
And West Hancock, you're going to start seeing more West Hancock stuff on TSSR Game Time Live. We'll talk more about that later. But here's a pull-up 3 by Jalen Conley. As you can see, the Titans got out early in this game, and BPC battled back and actually took a lead in the fourth quarter. Osmond Perelku comes near side. Dalton Yoakum, for 3. But sent this thing to overtime. It was a good game.
Indeed. Didn't go their way in overtime as West Hancock once again came out early lead and just couldn't really chip back at that lead.
There was the aforementioned Dalton Huffman with a bucket. Tied it at 44 or 34 back there. And here's the steal with 11.2 seconds left. Conley got the steal and tied it at 44. And then it was the Luke Jacko show in the overtime session.
Stolen away and another 2 for Conley.
Yep, but Luke Jacko scored 8 points from the fourth quarter on. 6 of them were in overtime to get ice the win for the West Hancock Titans. And Macomb basketball girls, this is Lewiston, I take it?
Indeed. Another close game, as it was a 39-38 finish. Lewiston winning. Pass out towards the corner, 3-pointer for Holthouse.
Ainsley Holthouse can do it inside and do it outside both.
Well, and you're going to about to see another shot in here for Holthouse. Drives in a little bit, gets the 2 this time.
So the pull-up jumper from about 16 feet. Is Allensworth going to the baseline.
Gets the and 1.
John Burton on the call of this one.
Shot is up. That one by Kylie Robinson. The one Macomb game I did do last week, she switched out and started wearing number 50. I do believe some blood got on her jersey or something. And the entire time I'm sitting there going, now who's 50? Now who's 50?
Who was that? Who was that and 1 right there?
I do believe the and 1 was on Allensworth again.
And there is pull-up 3 for Ainsley Holthouse.
So that'll be
that's the end of the game right there, wasn't it?
Indeed. Got that last 3-pointer in there and make it a 1-point game. Just ran out of time near the end.
Well, that does it for highlights. We'll take a quick break, probably 30 seconds or so, and we'll be back on TSSR Weekly for one last little session in just about 30 seconds.
At Western Illinois University, Leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there is limitless potential, with campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a Leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
At Country Financial, we enjoy serving the community in which we live, big or small.
I love living in the Blandonsville area. It's where I grew up, went to school, and decided to raise my family. I never had a desire to live or work anywhere other than in a small town. I feel lucky to help my longtime friends and neighbors with their insurance needs. It's like working with family every day.
I'm Brett Powell, your local Country Financial representative, whose door is always open to work with you.
And welcome back to TSSR Weekly. Dwayne Hulett, Kenny Suter. If you haven't seen this yet, folks, look at that. This is a good spot for it right there. That's a good spot for it right there. TSSR Bites, or Tri-State Sports Report Bites. Our second edition is out today. Is it still today? Yeah,
it's
out
still
today.
Still.
And the community news brief, we'll have a few copies of it to hand out at some sporting events as well, but it's got all kinds of cool stuff in it. Some photos from some friends that have offered to give some photos. Melissa Gilfillan giving us some photos, and Andrea Ratterman giving us some photos. So we appreciate that. Our first athlete of the week is in there, right down there. That is young Mr. Danny Stevens from Southeastern. Southeastern won the Thanksgiving tournament in Beardstown. Danny just had 52 points in the championship game.
Oh, yeah, that's nothing.
Tournament MVP. I don't know why he would be the tournament MVP.
You know, back in my day, I could have pulled those numbers.
You didn't score 52 points in your whole
career.
He did it in one game. So Danny Stevens is our first athlete of the week for Tri-State Sports Report. So congratulations to him. We are going to do this every week. We do have advertising opportunities available in this as well, and we're very happy to be working with the fine folks, Lynn Campbell and crew at Community News Brief, to help us get some more sports out into the community. That's what Hulett PubliPro LLC has kind of become the area to want. That's what we want to do, get high school sports and WIU sports out in the area so everybody knows what's going on, gets a chance to see their kids and have some fun in the process. And we enjoy working with everybody. You know, Justice Keene's been doing some stuff with us at different points, and we've got some new kids coming on. Grant Hicks, a new camera guy. Lauren Powell ran the camera the other night for John. We got Luke Little, who's going to come on. Just talked to him today. He's going to come on and start doing some stuff. So we're looking to expand. We're still wanting to build. So that's just what Kenny wants to hear. He's looking to expand. He wants to hear some more of that. But mentioned West Hancock. Does sound like we're going to start trying to do some West Hancock stuff if we can find the crew. I think we've got part of it now. So if you're from the West Hancock area and watching this, give us a shout. Send us an email or send us a message, and we will get you in touch with the right people, and we'll see if we can't get you on air with us here at TSSR Game Time Live and maybe even on a TSSR Weekly.
Yeah, give me kind of a break. That'd be nice.
Oh, breaks are overrated, Kenny. What's coming up this week? Tomorrow night, Thursday night, December 1st, girls basketball, Macomb versus Central Southeastern, West Prairie and Brown County, and Bushnell-Prairie City in Knoxville. Friday, we only have one boys basketball game. The Macomb game that was scheduled for A-Town has been canceled, so it's just West Prairie and South Fulton on Friday. Saturday is Abington-Avon versus North Fulton and girls basketball, and we're going to have, for the first time, Macomb swimming. That should be, I don't know how exciting it'll be because I don't know how well we can shoot it. We will shoot it, and
we'll try our best.
I sent a couple messages out to people to see if we can get some help in describing it a little better for you folks. So, but anyway, that'll be Saturday. Next Monday, we have girls basketball, Abington-Avon against Ridgewood, and Macomb versus BPC, and that's at the Washington Street Gym, so that should be fun. And then Tuesday, boys basketball, Macomb and Farmington. That's always a good one. And there's a lot of history with that battle. And then BPC and the IAFA champion, West Central Heat, doing battle at BPC. And then next Wednesday, of course, we'll be back here live on Sports Corner at 124 for TSSR Weekly. Although I say that, but just to dropping this bombshell on you, I have to be out of town that night.
Yep.
So it might be you and John. You think you guys could handle that?
Oh, easy.
Easy. You don't need me. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind you don't need me. You would probably do better without me, in all honesty. But it's been a lot of fun. A little different setup here tonight. We've been out here. It's so late, there's not a ton of people here, but it was a good night to be a sports fan in McDonough County. You got to see both Western teams play tonight. And we'll be back in action tomorrow night. We're trying to get everything switched around because somebody wants a night off.
A night off. Yeah, it's somebody that has finals coming up.
Oh, finals are overrated.
Well, yeah, but I should start doing some homework. I haven't done much of any for this entire semester.
Yeah, why start now? Why start now?
Because I want to be done next semester. I don't want to come back.
I want you to be done too.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I want you to be done too. So, Kenny, thanks for getting all those highlights done.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Folks, thanks for joining us all night tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us. We greatly appreciate it. Basketball on TSSR Game Time Live tomorrow night on our Hulett PubliPro LLC YouTube channel. It is Macomb and Central Southeastern, West Prairie, Brown County, and BPC versus Knoxville. I guess you'll see one of us or two of us or all of us or some of us tomorrow night if you join us. We greatly appreciate you being here. We'll talk to you again next week from Sports Corner at 124.